So I want to do a short technique video, but it's kind of strange because what I really want to point out is that often we focus on doing something obvious and we miss out practicing the opposite, which is just as important. So a really good example of this is when you start playing, it's all about put your fingers in the right place, hit those strings, and you get the right notes, which is true. But they don't tell you that if you hit extra strings, and you get all this horrible noise, and then there comes a certain point you're playing and you suddenly realize, holy shit, there's all this extra noise in my playing and it sounds awful, how do I get rid of it? So I'm going to talk about kind of physical equivalent of that, which is that guitar players in general, we think about playing guitar as putting our fingers down on the strings. So we play notes by pressing down on a given fret. And we spend a lot of time making sure our fingers are very accurate and quick when it comes to landing just behind the fret, landing on the tip of the finger, or whatever. And we spend very little time, or at least in my experience, almost everyone spends very little time thinking about the opposite of that, which is what do we do with the finger when it stops pressing a note? If you look at tennis players, they may run and hit the ball, but then they run back to the middle of the court so they're ready for the next one. If you look at a boxer, doing combinations or what have you, and he doesn't throw one punch, throws a second punch, and then just leaves them hanging in the air hoping that everything has worked. He goes back to where he was. And, you may have guessed I'm not a professional boxer, but I think that's how boxing works, is you come back to a starting position so that you're ready to throw your next punch. And guitar players just seem to not really have this concept of a position, a kind of ready position that you want to play from. So very simply, what you want to do is you want to just spend as much of your time focusing on how you come up away from notes as you do going onto the notes, because it's equally as important. If you play 4 notes and you're still pressing with all 4 fingers, then you are not ready for the next note, because you have to then unclamp a finger and move it to that place. So whenever you're playing notes, say we're just doing like 5, 6, 7, 8 on the B string, what you actually want to do is press with the first one, and then when you're pressing with the second one, the first one releases. Now, I don't lift it. The tennis player doesn't run from one side of the court all the way to the opposite side of the court. He just runs to the middle because that's where he's ready. Same thing, we just relax a finger when we're not using it. We don't lift it, and we don't leave it pressed. And if you apply it to every finger, so first finger presses, then at the same time the second finger goes down, the first finger relaxes. Same time the third finger goes down, the second one relaxes. Same thing with the little finger. And this is hard. This is really difficult. But at least if you put some attention in there, then your fingers will stay much lower to the fretboard. It'll be much more relaxing to play. And it will help you out in the long run.